Hey guys, okay, so today is February the 19th, and today, a topic that we're going to discuss is stubborn fat. That fat which seems to be both exercise and diet resistant, that fat that hangs around till the very end or doesn't move at all. So we're going to discuss that. A little bit complex with a super simple ending. And I want to talk about some life experiences. So I want to talk about an estrogen patch issue that I had, and I want to talk about gout, of all things. So, let me start with a story, do the topic, and then end with the story. I want to preface this and say I just finished my Victory Vault program. Gracious, that was such an amazing program. Next time that program, it's self-paced. You can buy it at any time, but what an amazing program. And the next program that's coming up is Muscle Month. So I run this program live. It's also available self-study. But Muscle Month is for anybody that wants to really master their ability to gain muscle and lose fat at the same time or remain lean. So especially useful for anybody in mid-age and beyond, anybody taking the weight loss medications. It's an absolute must. But the bottom line is just having a gym membership is not going to do it. So there's nutrition, there's workouts, and the science, because it really is a science of muscle building. Let's start with the topic. And so the topic being, let's start with gout. So my husband, Kevin, he has hardware in his ankle from an old motorcycle accident, and sometimes it really plays up. Now, he's had gout before, years ago, where his leg swelled up like a balloon, very painful. When that first time it happened, and anyway, long story short, gave up red meat, and he never drank. He's not a drinker at all. He prefers his cigars. So no problem. Then recently he was on a long road trip. He came back. His ankle was really bad again. We presumed it was the hardware. He's got plates and nuts and bolts and everything in there, really causing him a lot of problems. He's been on a cane for the last 6 weeks, a lot of pain. But his ankle didn't swell or anything like that. So, we kind of ruled gout out because there was no swelling. He was able to get his shoes on, but with the gout flare-up, he could not even put the bed sheet on his leg. Those of you that had experienced gout or seen it firsthand, you appreciate just how painful it is. So we're all, good gracious, we've got an appointment with the ankle surgeon again, and he's doing his blood work, and I asked the doctor, can we just check his uric acid just to be sure? Anyway, the results came back. Sure enough, his uric acid is through the roof, and it is indeed gout. But it is called what they call, there's a name for it, but basically there can be a low level of gout that happens between flare-ups. So there was no redness, there was no inflammation, just the sharp pain, which is also now in his knee and his hip, which we thought was really related to his ankle, So anyway, we were like, oh gosh, it is gout again, and yet they're saying, clean up your diet, and he's clean. I mean, no red meat, never any alcohol, really no sugar. I mean, maybe once a week you'd have a little something, but nothing. And Kevin just doesn't eat that much, so we were kind of perplexed with this, and he's been in a lot of pain for a long time. The purpose of this, to tell you this, is you have to look after your own health. You have to do your own research. So we have an appointment with his doctor on Monday, and for sure, there's 2 prescriptions that they can give for gout, and for sure that's what they're going to do. But we looked a little bit deeper, and it turns out that, so Kevin takes niacin for cholesterol. So niacin, if you didn't know, niacin can increase the size of the cholesterol particle, and a large cholesterol particle is cardio-neutral. Save that for another podcast. So he'd been taking niacin for a while now, and it turns out that niacin can trigger gout. I'm like, oh wow. We look a bit deeper, and Kevin takes well, he didn't. So this is the thing. Years ago, Kevin was prescribed a blood pressure medication and a diuretic, together to control blood sugar. blood pressure. Well, then he was, back then he was like 250 pounds. Now he's 187. Kevin took care of his own blood pressure, diet, exercise, the old fashioned way. He checks his blood pressure twice a day, and his blood pressure's been fine. But he had started taking the doctors are like, but it's an insurance. If you just keep taking the blood pressure medications, it's better than letting your blood pressure get out of control. So that's what's been going on. And long story short, that the diuretic is a major, to quote unquote, a gout bomb to trigger gout. So now here's Kevin taking a diuretic, which he had doubled up on because there was so much inflammation going on in his ankle, and he thought it would help. So diuretic and the niacin, and it's actually triggered the gout. So a super easy fix, but one that never been mentioned to us. Pretty sure that the doctor would not have addressed, would have just written prescriptions for gout, Like, take prednisone, all that lovely stuff. So just if you're listening to this Midlife Mayhem, then gout might be part of your life. You've definitely heard of it. We're right about the age where it really starts to crop up, and it is debilitating. But just know that beyond the food, the purines and the sugar, the alcohol, and the red meat, and the seafood, then look a little bit closer, because things like niacin and dehydration generally, but especially if you take diuretics, can be absolutely the number one triggers for gout. So hopefully that helps somebody out there. It's definitely saved us, because we were literally, in March, we were booked in to see the ankle surgeon again. And like I say, I don't think the doctors would have picked up on that, not blaming them. They would have naturally just given us a prescription. Right? So now we're not even 48 hours in, and Kevin's been drinking a lot of water, stopped taking the diuretic and the niacin, and he's walking without a cane, and he says he's 70% better. Just amazing. That's the first story. So let's move on to the topic. Stubborn fat. So stubborn fat is the fat that is classed as exercise and diet resistant. So usually in ladies, it's in the lower body, and it can be their thighs and their butt, and doesn't matter how much weight they lose, they really don't lose it there. Guys might feel it's on their back or their midsection, but it can be very frustrating. It can be, literally resistant to everything that you do. And that would be quite accurate, because it is resistant to, it behaves differently than normal fat. So let me talk about it with a nice analogy, because I like analogies. Let's think about the fat cell, and the fat cell, let's say, has on it a brake and an accelerator. So the brake is going to slow the fat cell down. So it's going to slow the cell down. Let's just call it the cell. So it's going to slow down fat breakdown. Whereas if you press the accelerator, press the gas pedal, obviously it speeds fat breakdown up. Well, these are classed as the regulators in your body, and these are alpha and beta receptors. There's more than alpha and beta, but there's alpha and beta receptors on the cell. The alpha receptor is the brake, and the beta receptor is the gas pedal. It's the accelerator. So imagine now that you are exercising and you've triggered adrenaline, epinephrine, depending on what side. Say different names for the same thing, depending on which side of the pond you live. Let's go with adrenaline. It's English. So you have this adrenaline response. That adrenaline is the first step of fat breakdown. So we want the adrenaline response, which is why exercise is good. It's why stimulants can sometimes work to an extent, although there's a downside to that. But we have this adrenaline response, and the adrenaline comes to the cell, and it hits the most dominant receptor. The most dominant. So if the cell is beta dominant, it hits the beta receptor, which remember is the accelerator, and hey ho, Adrenaline is the first step of fat breakdown, lipolysis, and we get the weight loss we want. What, however, happens if the same hormone, adrenaline, is released, but adrenaline comes in, and on that cell, it's actually alpha dominant. There's more alpha receptors than there are beta receptors. Well, now the same hormone comes in and presses the brake, and things actually slow down. Now we can see the problem. Now the problem is like, well, we've got the same hormone, but it's having two completely different effects. And the truth is that especially with ladies, their lower bodies are alpha dominant. Now, in this day and age, it's very fashionable to have a thick leg and butt and all that. But back in the 80s and 90s, everybody wanted the walnut butt and the thigh gap, and they did not like this very much. And they went to great extents to try and get these skinny legs and skinny butt. But a lot of women just couldn't quite achieve that because no matter what they did, the fat and the heaviness stayed on their upper thighs and their glute, because in many cases that lower body is alpha dominant. So all the exercises, that same hormonal response, but it's hitting the most dominant receptor, which in this case is the brake, and they're not losing weight in the areas that they want. They're losing weight everywhere else. I mean, gosh, I used to see ladies in the 90s and they would be literally skin and bone in their upper bodies, and they would have a completely different lower body. Literally like they were off two different physiques. Upper body, one physique, lower body, another. And very common. Like I say, it's a bit more fashionable now. So hopefully ladies don't beat themselves up about it. But this is what I'm talking about with stubborn fat. And guys might get it in their love handles, in their back. And sometimes in their hip and thighs as well. So what then happens is, do you remember back in the early 90s and ephedra was everything? It then got banned. A whole different story on that. It got banned, but maybe it shouldn't have. But, people did abuse it. And the reason that people liked ephedra is because it was a stimulant. And again, you get this stimulant that stimulate the stimulation, right? The adrenaline going to the fat cell. And then if the cell is beta dominant, hitting the gas, and people lose a bunch of weight. But again, so people got very hooked on ephedra. I'm not talking about ephedra here. The truck drivers were living on it to get, drive the trucks across country. You could buy it at 7-Eleven. It was everywhere. And it was pretty effective, especially with caffeine, for weight loss. Unfortunately, it was really tweaking people out. People got hugely dependent on it. With chronic use of ephedra, it can actually suppress the thyroid. In ladies, it can actually have a little bit of an androgenic response. So you get ladies getting a little bit of peach fuzz on their chins and things like that. But the downside is major depression and a tolerance too. So then we have to up the ante a little bit, right? Because again, it still doesn't matter, because even though they're stimulated and whacked out, it's still hitting the same dominant receptor, which is the accelerator, is the beta receptor. So then we come out, and it's been around for years, and I'm not suggesting going to look for it. I'm not at all suggesting going to look for it. But then comes out trenbuterol. So trenbuterol has been popular in the fitness industry for decades because it is known to reduce fat and gain muscle at the same time. And it does do that. Now, again, I am not suggesting anybody goes out and tries to look for that. They give it to racehorses all the time. You will feel terrible. But it does indeed work. Well, how does it work? Well, it works because trenbuterol is beta specific. So even if there's an area of your body which is maybe alpha dominant and you're suffering from stubborn fat, trenbuterol definitely worked as a stimulant, especially at first, but it was beta specific. So it still hit the beta cells, which again are the accelerator. And because, the beta cell isn't just about weight loss, it speeds everything up. So then you can actually build muscle and lose fat at the same time. Again, I'm seriously not telling anybody to do this. because it sounds great, right? Balance is the key. The problem with that is it's beta specific, right? Just because you want to lose fat on your ass or something, it's beta specific. It's going to hit every beta cell. So the beta cells in your heart. And it's going to speed everything up. We cannot be messing around with this stuff. So even though it works temporarily, because people do build up a tolerance to it and they feel very, very sick at first, you are kind of just slamming the accelerator on everything, not just your fat cell. So if we think about the beta, alpha, beta thing, and think about, we've heard about beta blockers, right? So why do we take beta blockers? To protect the heart, which is why you don't want anything beta specific to stimulate the heart. But there's a reason that beta blockers are banned from sports, especially certain sports, because they really are performance enhancing drugs. So say you get a sport like darts or golf, where it's about calmness and precision, then if you take something that's a beta blocker, so it's the betas that speeds everything up. So now you block that and you calm everything down, and it makes you more focused. Your shot more precise, the dart throw more precise. It's banned. Again, used for different medical reasons, especially the heart, but banned from sports. Which is again why clenbuterol is banned from sports, because whereas beta blockers block the receptor, beta receptors calm things down, clenbuterol is actually beta specific. It speeds things up. So what is the answer? The answer is, it kind of sucks, right? I mean, we have what we've got, body types, and sometimes we've got stubborn fat. There is yohimbine. Never tried this myself. I never had stubborn fat. Believe me, I had plenty of fat, but I don't have any one area that really was stubborn, resistant, like I have done on women. Like I don't carry weight in my legs or on my butt. If anything, would be around my midsection. And even then, I could get rid of it. It certainly wasn't resistant the way I've seen with many, 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 many women. But I have known women that have tried yohimbine. So yohimbine is a natural alpha blocker. So I believe it has helped. I've never tried it myself. I know a few competitors that used it and said they used it successfully. You can get it at a health store. But again, I'm just trying to illustrate ways people have tried to get around this stubborn fat. But the message here that I really want to get is, obviously we don't want to stimulate the alpha receptor, because the alpha receptor is the brake. We want to stimulate the beta receptor. So what stimulates the alpha receptor more than anything? And again, beta's the gas, alpha's the brake. Same hormone can come in, but if you're alpha dominant, you're going to be putting your foot in the brake. If you're beta dominant, you're going to be speeding things up. So what excites the alpha cells more than anything? Insulin. So if you create a high insulin environment by the foods that you eat, or the stress load that you create, or the lack of sleep, you're actually going to stimulate and excite those alpha receptors. And if you do have areas of your body which are alpha dominant, you will make that situation even worse and even more problematic. So don't rush out and get your yohimbine. Don't rush out and get clenbuterol. Definitely don't rush out and get a ephedra. But do your blood work. Check your insulin load. Everybody is all over the place on what insulin should be, but I will tell you, as a non-medical professional, as somebody that's just done body composition for the last 30 odd years, you want that insulin number to be under 10. I mean, honestly, you want it to be under 6 for weight loss and body composition benefits. And if you are over 10, even if you're around 10, you want to bring that number down. And you do that by, reducing your carbohydrates,
Sorry, let's continue that a little bit. I got cut off. So honestly, you want that, for weight loss, you've got to have that insulin under 10. I mean, I'd much rather that was 6 or less. But again, if you have stubborn fat and diet and exercise resistant fat, your first point of focus would be to look at your insulin load. And remembering that it's not just food and carbohydrates that increase the insulin, it is also stress, it is also lack of sleep, physical, emotional stress, addressing lifestyle, not just food. Okay, so that is the topic, stubborn fat. Now I'd like to talk about, for a second, about my little ordeal last month, I'm going to say, with my estrogen patch. So yes, I take HRT. I'm sure I've spoken about that before. And I take a estrogen patch. And all is well in the world. No problems. Mine is 0.1 milligrams. Use this patch twice a week, as is common. So I go to the pharmacy, get my, pick it up, and I noticed the box is different. It's a different brand. I don't really think much to it, and I put the patch on, and within about 2 days, I feel awful. I feel like somebody has just got an air pump and just pumped my body up with about 15 pounds of air. I'm sure that's not what it was, but that's what it felt like. I had my boobs was stupid sensitive. My skin was kind of angry, almost like it was stretched. I felt huge. And I was like, what on earth is going on? So I look at the estrogen patch. I'm thinking, did they get the dose wrong? Is it changed in some way? And no, the dose is the same, 0.1. But what has happened is the brand was changed. So the first brand that I generally use is Lylana, Lyllana. Great, no problems. Everything has been dandy from day one. And for that month, it was changed, and the brand was Mylan, so Mylan, in a slightly pink box. I'm looking at it in front of me. Well, I lasted about 3 days, and I took that thing off, and within about 2 or 3 days, I felt a lot better. My body went down to normal, but I reached out to my doctor, and I told him what was going on. All I can think of is this different brand. Should it make that much of a difference? And she got back to me and she said, oh gosh, yes. And I, of course, being me, had researched it myself. And although it is the same dose, there are reported a lot of side effects with the Mylan estrogen pill. I'm sure it works for some people, but boy, it did not work for me. So just ladies out there, if for some reason, you're having problems with your estrogen patch, it might well be the brand. Now, what was interesting when I went to pick it up, my insurance covers for a month, but now I'm picking up halfway through the month, so I know I'm going to have to buy this new box. I don't care, that's fine. And so they go to refill it, but they refilled it and they charged me, I think, $48. But they refilled it with a Mylan one again. And I was like, oh, no, I don't want the Mylan. That's the one that caused me the problems. And so they switched out for the Lylana, which was, I think, $79. So I think you get what you pay for. They, in their wisdom, have given me the cheaper brand, but it did not work. I mean, it did not work. And I just imagined that if that was somebody's first experience with HRT, they would be scared off for life. Thankfully, it was not my first experience. I knew something had to be up. It wasn't the dose, it was just the brand. So if you are new to HRT and you've had a bad experience, then maybe that's a conversation you have with your doctor. If you're looking at your estrogen box right now, or even considering it, the discussion with the doctor, my advice would be do not take the Mylan brand. That was 3 or 4 days of real misery for me. Now, as soon as I took it off, everything went back to normal within a few days, thank heavens. But again, I've gone back to my Lylana patch, no problem at all. Okay, so back to a quick plug. Muscle Month. I haven't even set the date yet, but I think I'm going to run it from, give me a quick my calendar, from March I think I'm going to start it in a couple of weeks, so maybe on March the 9th. and it runs for a month. You would have access to the content for a year, which is kind of nice. And with my programs now, new for 2025, all the content is on a different platform. So it's so well laid out. I'm very proud of myself for that. But again, Muscle Month is, there's workouts if you want to use those, obviously nutrition. There are 3 live Zooms a week. It kicks my butt coaching that program. And there is a lot of content. I forget how many videos there are, but there are a lot. By the end of Muscle Month, I absolutely guarantee you will know more about building muscle than, I'm going to say, 98% of personal trainers out there. I can very confidently say that, which is quite shocking, but it's the truth. So if you want to gain muscle, you know you have to gain muscle. Ladies, if you're still scared of getting big, I explain all of that nonsense. Muscle fibers, failure, muscle protein synthesis, how to actually create the 2 environments so you can gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. It is fascinating. So if you go to, I think it's musclemonth.com. I'll put that, I don't even know my own domain. I will look it up and it'll be in the show notes, but I think it's musclemonth.com. I'll go to the shrink shop and it'll be on there. I'll put it in the show notes. But last year, I only managed to run this program live once a year. I'm running it now in the hope that I might be able to run it twice a year, but I don't know. Fascinating program. You will, half the time is in the gym. I have my own commercial gym here. So in the gym, ask away questions there, tips, advice. I do a whole thing on posture as well, which is very popular. And although I always feel like people want to know all the information, I love just like vomiting all the science and the information at people. But actually when I do Muscle Month, people really want to see me in the gym. They really want to see the workouts, the exercises, my tips, my tricks. So that's always fun. Anyway, we're going to be starting really soon. I'm thinking March the 9th. It's not March the 9th, the following week. But again, my programs are now available self-study. You can buy them at any time and do them yourself if you don't want to be in a group. All right, that's it for now. So a subject, a topic, and another subject. So gout, good gracious, if you suffer with that, then definitely look at your food, but look at some of your supplements and look at your medications as well. Stubborn fat, it is definitely stubborn. It is a real thing, and it starts with insulin. And then the estrogen patch, that was a fun little circus I had to go through in the last month. All right, until next time, be good.
But also, what's